Hi, I'm Catherine Kerr, Product Manager at VETalk, and I have our very own Dr. Brian here to discuss all of your summertime pet needs that you may have. So make sure to submit your questions today while we're live to be entered to win $50 worth of free VETalk product, and 2 lucky winners are going to be announced tomorrow. So whether it be any summertime issue that you have, skin conditions, travel tips, or any general question, Dr. Brian can help. So I'll turn it over to you, Brian.
Thank you. Thanks to everyone who was here last time and the newcomers as well. Just remember that what we talk about here today isn't meant to replace visiting your veterinarian with your pet. And we are going to talk about summertime tips with your pets today. And we'll go ahead and we have some questions that were already coming through, but I'll have Catherine read those off to me, and then we'll go from there and we'll look at those questions. So we'll go ahead and get started for today.
Yeah, Brian, Dr. Brian. So one of the questions that we got was to discuss the dangers of leaving pets in hot cars during the summer.
Yeah, so big concern with pets and hot cars, and we think that if we just leave them there for a short period of time that they're going to be okay. Not true. The temperature can rise about 20 degrees over about a 10-minute period, even with the windows cracked, and it's unfortunate, but there's pets that die all the time being left in cars, and I know there's been a big deal with that over the years, and so the problem is they get heat exhaustion just like you and I do, and the signs of that, obviously, they tend to pant, they tend to be extremely lethargic. They could vomit, they could have some digestive issues along with that, but unfortunately if they get too hot, their bodies can't handle that, and they could pass away. So certainly there are some major issues with leaving them in hot cars. So I would encourage you, if you're taking your pet out, do be mindful of that ahead of time, and not have a place for them to go, or be able to take them out of the car with wherever you're going, and not leave them in the hot car during the summertime. It can get extremely hot in there in a very short amount of time, and so we need to be mindful of that.
Great. Another question that we got was somebody wrote in about their dog loves playing outdoors, but they're afraid that he'll become dehydrated. Mm-hmm. So how can you prevent this, and what are some things or signs to look for if this does happen?
Yeah, so pets in the outdoors, and I actually just had my dog out camping this weekend, and the first thing that I thought of was, he needs to have adequate shade, and certainly had adequate shade. Second thing would be to provide water at all times for them, or have a source of water for them. They can certainly get heat exhaustions. They could also get sunburns associated with that. If they do get dehydrated, certainly, I don't know, if some people may know what skin tinting is, but if their skin tints up and it just stays there, they're definitely dehydrated. Kind of hard to tell in a short amount of time. It probably won't happen that way. But we need to be mindful of that. Certainly them being lethargic, not wanting to eat. Digestive issues are some common signs of dehydration that you want to look for, and we certainly need to be mindful of that. But really, having water available to them at all times, adequate shade, taking adequate rest times is certainly something that we need to be mindful of.
Okay, another thing that you may want to talk about is sunburns, because I know a lot of people are concerned about their dogs getting sunburns during the summer.
For sure. No, that's a great question. They can get sunburns just like you and I can get sunburns, and we need to be mindful of that, especially on the nose, the tips of the ears, maybe areas of where there's not a lot of hair coverage. It's thought that, maybe since they have a lot of hair, a lot of coverage over their bodies, that they would be protected from the sun. Not true. A lot of short-haired breed of dogs certainly are more prone to sunburns than others, especially light-skinned as well. And so we need to be mindful of that. The other thing is there are sunscreens that are available. They can use our sunscreens, human sunscreens if need be. The other thing, there are some dog safe sunscreens out there as well that work very well. So applying that sunscreen where it's needed, certainly if they're in the water, waterproof sunscreen, things like that would be something that would need to be done if they're out in the sun for an extended period of time. Plus what we talked about before, where there's been adequate shade, adequate water for these guys, and taking rests when need be.
Absolutely. What about cats shedding in the summer and getting excessive hairballs just because it's so hot and they start losing their coats?
Yeah, no, it's a great question, and that's a normal thing that happens to cats, especially those cats that are outdoors where they're shedding more in the probably the summertime or the spring and the fall where it's getting warmer, the changing of the seasons. Indoor cats probably shed at all times, so people are just going to have to deal with that quite a bit. But I think that grooming your cat, so brushing adequately, brushing frequently, using a vacuum to clean up the hair in the house or whatnot, they're not going to get as much hair. But adequately grooming them, getting them on a good diet to help with their coat is something else that's going to help as well. Again, it's going to be a year-round thing for those indoor cats, but certainly if we're not grooming them, their coat is poor, they could possibly overgroom and get hairballs, which if you have a cat, you probably have seen a hairball come up a time or two. There's certain products out there like Laxatone that tend to help with passing those hairballs through and helping lubricate the GI system to help get those hairballs through from that excessive grooming. So certainly helping them groom themselves, not letting them overdo it, brushing them. Certainly you could bathe a cat. It may be kind of tough to do that, but that would help with the shedding as well.
Okay. We got a question from Ryan. Thank you so much, Ryan. He's going on a long road trip with his dog this summer, and he is nervous that he'll get restless on the long drive. Is there anything he can do to help ease his time in the car?
Yeah, perfect, Ryan. Hopefully it's a good trip this summer. Good times to be had during the summer with your pet. But I would tend to just make sure you have adequate water with you. You have some stops planned for them to go to the bathroom throughout the summertime or throughout your trip. Certainly, I like to have a bed in there or something that they're used to or comfortable with, whether it's a blanket, just a safe place that they feel safe in that car. Some dogs and cats do better than others in the car. I can tell you my dog definitely has some issues with car rides, not too terrible. My sister-in-law told me otherwise this past weekend when she took him on a trip. So we've talked about this frequently, about maybe having something for him to do. So having a toy for him to play with, a food toy of some kind that may help them calm. Other things that are out there, there's certainly some products out on the market, non-pharmaceutical products like Zilkine that could help them to cope with that situation they're put into with the car ride if it makes them nervous or nauseous, and allows them to be calm during that car ride. There are some other products that will sedate more and that will have some more activity against the anti-anxiety effect, but Zilkine is a good start for that, and to see how that works. Consult your veterinarian with that and see what they would recommend. You could mention Zilkine to them, but there are other products out there too that could help if it's really severe in those cases. You may not need things like that, and again, just providing that safe place for them, providing that an area or maybe some toys for them to preoccupy their time with. If they are nauseous, there is certainly products out there that help with that. So a lot of things to think about, but just plan out your trip. Make sure you have plenty of stops along the way for them, plenty for them to drink water, stops to drink water, eat, whatnot, and I think you'll be fine there.
Okay, another question that came in. How many times a month should you bathe an indoor Chihuahua in the summer?
There's varying opinions on that. It all depends. Do they have a skin problem? Do they have allergies or whatnot? I would say, the most frequently to bathe an indoor Chihuahua, maybe once a month, depending on how dirty they get. You could do it every couple weeks. It's not something that's set in stone that way. But if they don't get dirty, they're not going outside. They shouldn't have too much dandruff unless they have a problem with their skin. So I would say every couple weeks is probably sufficient, if not once a month, depending on how clean you want your Chihuahua to be, for sure.
Okay, great. Another question we received was about chlorine. Is chlorine bad for dog's skin and the effect that it has on the ears? Her dog gets very itchy ears after getting in the pool.
The pool. Yeah. I mean, most of those, I mean, if they're safe for us, they should be safe for our pets. And there's still pools with chlorine in there. I believe there's some other chemicals that are used, but typically they shouldn't be too irritating. The thing that I would be more concerned about is just washing them off after they've been swimming in a pool or any other environment for that matter. The other thing that we need to be mindful of is we can clean out our ears as humans, and they cannot do that, obviously. So we need to be wiping out the excess water in the ears and in some of the other crevices as far as maybe under their arms, and just getting them completely dry. In the ears, if we have that excess water in there and we're not cleaning it out after they've been swimming, certainly could set up a prime environment for bacteria and yeast to overgrow and then to have an ear infection. So you do hear quite a bit. There's dogs that like to swim, whether it's in a lake or a pool, that get frequent ear infections. There is typically some underlying issue, like allergies typically with that, but it doesn't always have to be that way, but certainly that is associated with it. There are products out there like ear cleansing solution that will clean, dry, and acidify that ear after we bathe or after they swim, and we can get those ears fairly cleaned out and then hopefully prevent some of those things from happening in the future. But overall, we shouldn't have an irritation. If there is an irritation on the skin after swimming, maybe there is an allergy involved with whatever chemical is being used in that pool, and I would consult your veterinarian with that for sure.
What about fertilizer?
Mm-hmm.
Is there any danger of dogs rolling around in the grass that was just treated with fertilizer?
Great question. I tend to err on the side of caution of following what the manufacturer says for fertilizers, and the majority of them, will say not to allow children, animals on the yard for a certain period of time afterwards. In all honesty, those fertilizers are pretty safe or really safe. I'm not going to tell you just to put your pet out there or your dog out there, but they are pretty safe. And I'd be more concerned probably with them ingesting it and causing some upset tummies with that, and not necessarily them rolling in it. Certainly if they are allergic to whatever fertilizer or chemical that is being used on the yard, they could certainly have some skin issues and some issues with itching or irritation of the skin. But again, I tend to follow what the manufacturer says, and I will try to keep my dog off of the yard after I fertilize my yard, or my kids off of the yard after I fertilize it for a good period of time, or follow the manufacturer's recommendations. If anything happens with ingesting fertilizer, certainly contact your veterinarian. Poison control is out there as well to call, and they could help you out as far as what was in it, and having the ingredients will help with that call as well. That's a great question.
Another question we got, Dr. Brian, was about cats and dogs getting summer allergies. Do they get allergies like people do in the summertime?
They certainly do, and probably more dogs than cats get seasonal allergies, so humans can get seasonal allergies as well. The other side to that would be a food allergy, so there's usually environmental allergies and then food allergies. Talking about environmental allergies, certainly they could get those seasonal allergies, which will cause their, to have excessive itching of the skin, maybe some irritation there. They could definitely get a skin infection. All things that we want to, keep an eye on. Certainly, if it's a mild case of seasonal allergies, maybe all we need is just to bathe them periodically with a shampoo like an aloe and oatmeal shampoo that will help get those allergens off the skin. They'll have less irritation. It can help with the itching a little bit as well. So we certainly have products out there that can help with those mild seasonal allergies. Certainly if they're worse, we want to visit our veterinarian. They can do allergy testing to see specifically. Sometimes they're treated symptomatically, but if it does get to that point, we certainly want to visit the veterinarian and have it checked out for sure.
Another great question from Barbara. Thanks, Barbara. She likes to make her dog's food. She does meat, different types of meat, fish, poultry, salad, veggies. Is that okay? She's just concerned that she wants to make sure that she's giving her dog the best food possible.
Yeah, I mean, our pets, they do eat meat, cats for sure, and dogs. So, I'm not opposed to those things. I guess I would certainly consult with your veterinarian on those diets and to make sure that they're adequate, that we have quite a few resources out there in veterinary medicine, nutritionists, animal nutritionists, that can verify whether those diets are adequate as far as all the nutrients. If we're just feeding meats and vegetables, we may not be getting all the nutrients that we need in just meats or vegetables. So there's certain things that may need to be added to those diets. There's certainly great commercial diets out there, companies that are reputable, that do a great deal of research on their diets that are specifically for cats and dogs, that I would tend to probably recommend over a home cooked diet. But certainly there are those times where home cooked diets, if we do have allergies on our pets, that may be the only thing that we can do. But again, I would consult with your veterinarian on those diets and make sure they're adequate, or if they can get a hold of a nutritionist to make sure they're adequate. That's what I would recommend for those things.
Okay, Ashley has a question about hosting barbecues throughout the summer, but she has a new kitty and the kitty seems hesitant around the new guest. Is there something that she can do to help settle her kitty's nerves?
For sure, and the kitty interacting with the people at the barbecue is great. I typically think of dogs, but kitties need that interaction as well. So certainly, I would slowly introduce your kitty to these barbecues, and maybe that's already past that point. But allow your cat to have a safe place to go while there are people in the house, and not just throw them into it, and gradually introduce them over time when you have these get-togethers with friends and family and whatnot. Certainly, again, having a safe place for them to go if they do feel anxious or stressed out, that they can go to that safe place and not be bothered by kids or adults or whatnot. Make sure that their food and water is in a different place than where you're having these events. I tend to think about if you are noticing that there's certain products out there that can help with that. Certainly Zilkine can help with interaction of cats between humans and cats, and help calm them during those interactions, especially in an event where there's a lot of people around as well. It may be more severe than that, and if that's the case, it may not be a good environment for your cat to be out and interacting with them. And hopefully that's not the case with this with your kitty. But certainly if that happens, visit your veterinarian and can talk to them about some things you can possibly do to help out your cat, as far as whether it be a medicine, a nutraceutical, or something like that, and then just dealing with the environment.
Tara has a question. She has multiple dogs, and a couple of them are not getting along. And she's been bitten before, which is not good.
No.
So they both get very jealous of each other, of giving one or the other attention, and also feeding time can be frustrating for her. What can she do to help ease some of that aggression?
Yeah. So, aggression is not a fun thing to deal with just right off the bat, and can be a very serious thing, especially if humans are getting involved with that and have been bitten in the past. I mean, those dogs are obviously conflicting with each other, as far as sounds like maybe one is having food aggression. It's hard for me to be able to evaluate without seeing them, or anybody else evaluate their Aggression is a serious thing, because if people are getting bit, children are getting bit, I would want to have some help with that, some professional help as far as your veterinarian first, to address this matter between the dogs. And then maybe even a veterinary behaviorist to address that, and taking care of that. Certainly when you're feeding them, one thing I will say is that, if they're that food aggressive, then they definitely need to be fed separately, and totally separate rooms, and then certainly for aggression cases, you want to consult your veterinarian or even a veterinary behaviorist when it comes to these cases, because they can get very serious, and you don't want them biting other people or yourself, for that matter. But certainly some behavioral conflict going on there that needs to be addressed.
Okay, great. And we have time for about one more question. What about boarding cats during the summertime? Mm-hmm. They're going on a family vacation, and they're really nervous that the cat's going to feel abandoned. What are some things that they can do?
Yeah, for sure. We'd like to take our pets with us, especially dogs and cats, but that doesn't always work out. So we have to board. I certainly board my own dog when I have to, and can't take him with us on our trips. Cats certainly can pose a challenge when we do board them, especially if they're used to your family. But I like to take a lot of their belongings, as many belongings as I can, to the boarding facility. So that's a bed, some toys, some familiar blankets or whatnot for them. Certainly bring their own food with them. If the clinic you're taking them to offers some sort of socialization, maybe with the caretakers there, maybe not with other cats, that may be disastrous. But if they offer some socialization where they let them out with the caretakers for a period of time while they're boarding, I would certainly go for that. If your cat gets stressed in the clinic, there are products out there. Certainly Zilkine can help with that, to help calm them in those situations, allow them to cope with those situations in those boarding facilities. But I think just taking as much as you can from your house to make them feel comfortable in that boarding facility, and I think they'll do just fine.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, everyone, for your questions, and anything that we did not answer, that Brian didn't get to, we'll be sure to respond to those through our Facebook. And then stay tuned for tomorrow for the winners to be announced.
Thank you very much, and sorry we were a little late today, but hopefully...
technical difficulties.
Yeah, well, you can join us on the next Facebook Live, which we'll announce in the near future, and hope everybody has a great day. Thank you very much.
Thank you.